When you talk about people who are in both WWE and UFC, the most successful example without a doubt is Brock Lesnar. He's earned championship gold in both, he's made crazy money in both, and he's done a lot to elevate the profile of both companies. Welcome to Remember Wrestling, and this is WWE vs UFC, Brock Lesnar. After winning the NCAA Heavyweight Championship in 2000, Brock Lesnar made his WWE debut in 2002. He quickly shot up the card thanks to his ridiculous combination of freakish power and surprising agility. Also, his relative lack of experience on the mic was made up for when he was paired with arguably the best talker in the industry, Paul Heyman. Less than 6 months into his run, he became the youngest WWE champion in history and beat guys like The Rock, Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, and a very young John Cena. WWE was setting Lesnar up to be the next big face of their company, but just 2 years into his career, he was gone. The relentless travel schedule had led to Brock developing a substance abuse issue, and he decided that it just wasn't worth it anymore. After leaving WWE, Lesnar bounced around professions. He tried out for the Minnesota Vikings but just missed the cut. He went to go wrestle in Japan, which is a story in itself, but that didn't last long either. Finally, he turned to MMA and made his debut at Dynamite USA in 2007. He squashed his opponent Min-Soo Kim in just over a minute as Bill Goldberg cheered him on from commentary.
That's Adam Goldberg, excited here at ringside.
Lesnar made his UFC debut the following year, which was preceded by a fair amount of skepticism. He fought former champion Frank Mir in his debut, and although he was dominating, he got caught in a knee bar and was forced to tap. But Lesnar got right back on the horse, namely the Texas Crazy Horse Heath Herring. Brock sent him cartwheeling across the octagon with the first punch he hit him with and dominated the whole fight. While it was an impressive win, it didn't seem like enough to get a world heavyweight title fight, but that's exactly what happened. Yep, in just his 4th ever MMA fight, he was fighting MMA legend and Hall of Famer Randy Couture for the heavyweight title. Brock managed to silence the doubters though by winning in the second round via TKO, becoming the new heavyweight champion. Now that Brock was on top of the division, it only made sense that his first title defense was against the only man to beat him, Frank Mir. This fight was to go down at the biggest event in the company's history, UFC 100. And Lesnar exacted his revenge with another second round TKO. Immediately after the fight, Lesnar went rampaging around the cage screaming at everybody, which drew massive boos from the crowd. In his post-fight interview, he gave arguably the best promo of his entire career, MMA or wrestling.
Frank Mir had a horseshoe up his ass. I pulled that sumbitch out and I beat him over the head with it. Woo!
Then he called out the UFC's biggest sponsor, Bud Light, for not paying him enough.
I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Which was something he actually had to apologize for at the post-fight press conference. Lesnar wouldn't see the cage for a year as he battled diverticulitis, but his next fight was arguably the most pro-wrestling MMA fight that's ever happened. He was fighting Shane Carwin, who had a streak of 12 fights, 12 wins, 12 first-round knockouts. And in the first round, Lesnar got absolutely battered. However, he managed to recover and survive, and in the second round, mounted the babyface comeback and got the submission win. Unfortunately, that was the last feel-good moment of Lesnar's MMA career. In his next fight, he'd lose the title in a one-sided beating against Cain Velasquez. This conflict was one that WWE tried to revive nearly a decade later, with disastrous results. After another year away, Lesnar would suffer another loss, this time to Alistair Overeem. In this fight, it was clear how much the diverticulitis had taken out of Lesnar as Overeem decimated his body with strikes. This factored into Lesnar's decision to retire from MMA immediately after the fight, and he was back in WWE 4 months later. Lesnar had been a big star when he left WWE, but when he came back, he was on a completely different level. He'd become the biggest pay-per-view draw that MMA had ever seen, and he leveraged that when he returned. It had been the travel schedule that had driven Lesnar out the door in the first place, so now he was only working a very select number of dates. The WWE, for their part, treated him like the star he'd become, as he was as dominant as he'd ever been in his initial run, even more so in fact. He became the man to break The Undertaker's streak. He squashed John Cena at SummerSlam, and he mowed through opponents at the top of the card for years. The fans have blown very hot and cold on Lesnar over the years, as sometimes he doesn't seem to try. But when he's on, he's one of the most dynamic performers that WWE has. He wields so much power now that he was eventually able to go back to UFC for a one-fight deal at UFC 200 in 2016, and even the post-fight drug fail following his win didn't seem to dent him at all. So when it comes to Brock Lesnar in WWE versus UFC, I kind of give the nod to his run in WWE. What he did in the UFC can't be taken for granted, as he brought that company to a whole new level. But in WWE, he's been dominant in 2 different runs in 2 very different ways. And in business terms, he's played it perfectly. Long runs at the top of the card, vast sums of money coming in, and all in the way that he likes it.